Labor Day used to be a time to celebrate the rising wages, better working conditions, and improved benefits that most working people in America enjoyed for years. No longer.
If you're one of the millions of American workers lucky enough to have the day off tomorrow, you can thank American women, men and women workers who've contributed to the prosperity and strength of our country. Working together, the labor movement honors that work by fighting for mandatory lunch breaks, sick leave, the 5-day work week, and about 3 dozen or so other scrolling behind me. Over the last several years, though, attacks from the right have attempted to demonize and weaken labor unions, ignoring the work that unions have done to help pave the way for workers' rights in this country, everything from better pay to decent working conditions. And still, too many Americans continue to fight for respect on the job. Earlier this week, as the nation celebrated the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's March on Washington, which, let's not forget, was originally called the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, thousands of fast food workers in more than 60 cities held a nationwide strike demanding a raise from the current minimum wage salary of $7.25 to a living wage of $15 per hour, a drop in the bucket for a lot of these large corporations like McDonald's and Walmart. Oh, and by the way, adjusted for inflation, the current minimum wage of $7.25 is less than the $1.15 an hour workers were fighting against back in 1963. So this Labor Day, as we recognize the multiple reasons to thank the labor movement, let's also realize that the fight goes on for many. Joining us now is Mary Kay Henry, president of the Service Employees International Union, and John Nichols, Washington correspondent for The Nation. Thanks to you both.
Thank you.
So I want to start with you, Mary Kay. You know, the fast food worker strike has become so important because I think it's, brought attention back to the issue of a living wage. We know the president has proposed an increase in the minimum wage and also collective bargaining. So I want to just show you, if you take a look at the impact raising the minimum wage would have, we know particularly when it comes to men and, people of color and women, you've got minimum wage workers in 2011, 62% were women, 38% were men. And we've got 2.5 million women earning minimum wage or less and 1.5 men earning minimum wage or less. So when we talk about increasing the minimum wage, we're really talking about a huge impact on communities of color and for women, who are now really, in many cases, the sole breadwinners.
That's right. That's an amazing way that you just painted that picture. And that's why I think our members are so proud, Karen, to stand with these fast food workers and the Walmart workers, because they're not just standing up for themselves, they're standing up for all of us. We have a low-wage economy where by 2020, 48% of the jobs are going to be low-wage jobs. And unless we support the fast food workers winning their demand for $15 an hour, we're going to keep heading in this direction. And that's why we are so proud this Labor Day to think about how do we restore the basic American value that when you work hard, you can earn a decent living. Because that basic promise to American working people has been broken.
You know, John, one of the sort of what we hear from the other side is they say, oh, these fast food workers, these are teenagers, which we know is not true. Generally, I think the median age is about 28, and these folks are generally breadwinners in their families. You know, the companies will say, well, we can't afford the living wage. I mean, look what it would do to profits. But then if you take a look at the CEO salaries from last year, McDonald's CEO Don Thompson made $13.8 million. Yum Brands CEO David Novak, $11.3 million. Walmart CEO Michael Duke, $20.7 million last year. Can they really not afford to pay their workers?
Of course they could pay their workers more. The fact of the matter is that it's not just the CEO. We always talk about CEO pay, but then there's executive vice presidents and directors and all sorts of other folks. The fact is that these corporations pay a handful of people a huge amount of money, and yet they contribute to a direction that our economy is going that's very, very dangerous. Since the Great Recession, 2/3 of the jobs that have been created have been below $14 an hour. What that means is that we are creating jobs, and we're talking about, coming back, the creation of jobs.
Sure.
But what we're really doing is creating jobs that can't pull a working family above the poverty level. And this is a real challenge. It's why the unions have stepped in, and they're so wise to do so. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about unions or non-union workers.
Right.
It's about the kind of economy that we create.
Well, and I think that's so important because one of the things we also know is that over this period where you've seen wages are stagnating, we have seen, again, CEO pay going up, but we have also seen a 25% increase in productivity. So workers are working harder. Somebody's profiting.
Yeah.
Clearly, that money is not being reinvested into the workers.
That's correct. I think it's
that's exactly
you're
right.
pointing.
And
sorry, go ahead, John.
yeah. I would say that's exactly right. And the fact of the matter is, this is bad economics. It is unwise. It's great for if you have a cash-out economy, if you want to make your money and leave quickly. But if you want to make a long-term commitment to the United States, you have to talk like Mary Kay Henry's been talking here,
right,
saying what it's going to be like in 20 years or 25 years. And the fact is, it is unsustainable to keep creating an economy where a handful of people take so much money out of Main Street,
right,
and then the people who actually spend money on Main Street are scraping to get by. And so what we're seeing now is, with these fast food strikes and all these actions, is a return to some of the values that you saw with the March on Washington, a recognition that you really do have to take care of those folks who are making the least,
right,
in order to maintain an economy that functions for everybody.
You know, Mary Kay, very quickly, labor's role in this has been critically important. And as I had mentioned in the opening, we have seen a real attack on the labor movement, a demonization, if you will. We've seen a myriad of measures at the state and local level. We've seen attempts at the federal level to really weaken unions. What is the labor movement doing to strengthen? I mean, one of the things we've seen certainly is broader coalitions like the Moral Monday, like the engagement around these fast food workers.
Right. I think those are the two key things that we are recognizing, that this is about how do we support workers raising wages again. And that's the essence of our mission in this moment, and doing it by joining hands with civil rights leaders and faith leaders who have been at the forefront of supporting the fast food workers.
All right. Thank you to Mary Kay Henry and John Nichols.